Ashley, and this is Let's Talk Recovery Houston. Hope everyone had a good weekend. So, super excited to get to a podcast today. Okay, so this is the thing. Me and Nick have this mutual friend, Brian. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to call Brian out on my podcast right now because I have been trying to get him on the podcast, and he's like, no, like, nobody wants to hear my story. But I'll help you. Yeah, I know. He's like, but I'll help you, like, find some people. And so a couple weeks ago, he's like, okay, you got to talk to my guy, Nick. And he's like, I think he would be really good for your podcast. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I was like, but you still need to be on the podcast too. So this is cool. I'm excited to hear Nick's story. I've never got to hear it before. With that, I'm just going to let Nick take it over.
Awesome.
So you.
Well, thank you for having me on this podcast. This is amazing. And Brian, you definitely have to tell your story. You're being scared. I don't know why, but you just got to do it, man. So my name's Nick. I'm an alcoholic, and my sobriety date is 7/8/2015. For that, I'm truly grateful. You know, that's definitely, it's not my first one, but by God's grace, I pray it's my last. And, you know, I was born June 27th, 1991. I was born in a nice household. You know, I had a loving mother, I had a loving father. My father at the time was in the newspaper business. My brother named Matthew, he was 3 years older than me. And it's interesting having an older brother being a young kid because I could say certain things and I'd get him in trouble. And it was kind of an interesting way of manipulating people. So I started manipulating the whole situation when I was a child. And I learned things about my heritage, my certain grandfathers. So my great-great-grandfather on my mother's side was actually a high-ranking member in the Air Force. My mother's real father was one of the main guys in the control room whenever we went to the moon. He worked very high up in IBM. On my dad's side, here we go. So my dad's side, my great-great-great-grandfather had a friend, and he came up to him. He's like, hey, Bloom, I got this great idea. We're going to make a lot of money. And I don't know if people are familiar with this, but the company is called Lord & Taylor. It's a multi-million-dollar company in New York. My great-great-grandfather was like, you know what? I'm going to make moonshine instead. So there's the Bloom. A couple generations later, another Bloom member was actually a bootlegger back in the day. So I had that going for me. So it was kind of interesting learning about all my grandfathers and all my past and realize here I am and I'm just a freaking drug addict, alcoholic, you know. And so I can't tell you the first time I had a drink. I can't tell you that because I grew up in a household thinking it was okay. My father, he was the drinker. My mom, she drank on occasion, but my father was the drinker. And I remember taking sips out of his wine. He was a big wine drinker. I remember just taking sips here and there, sneaking my way. So I can't tell you exactly when I had my first beer or my first drink, but I was young. And I was also one of those kids, if you ever been to a bar and you see those nice arcade machines, it's always like a racing game, and you see the jackass kid over there playing the game, and I was that jackass. And so I was basically raised in a bar. And I say all that because when I got older and I realized that drinking is how you live your life. You know, I was raised thinking that
that's normal, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you think. No, this is so crazy. So my real dad was a DJ in nightclubs my whole life. So every other weekends and holidays, he would take me to the club with him. And I would, like, hang out in the DJ booth, right? So, like, yes. And so I just thought it was normal. Like, that's what you do. Like, everyone just drinks and you go out and get drunk. Like, everyone does that.
It's interesting. It's very interesting because, you know, we get sober and we realize that we're not the only ones that have been through that, you know. I literally thought the only way to live my life was through alcohol. I remember being very, very young. I remember being about think I was in middle school at the time, maybe 7th grade. I used to do martial arts, and every night after martial arts, I would walk from the karate school all the way to the bar across the street to go to my dad. Instead of him coming to pick me up, I had to go to him. And I would sit in his car for maybe an hour to 3 hours that night, waiting for him to come out. So one night, I'm being nosy and I'm snipping and looking through everything in his car, and I opened up the center console. And inside was this stuff, and it said, drink every 4 hours, cause drowsiness, dizziness, and okay, let's try it out. So I drank it, and then 15 minutes later, my dad finally got back in the car, and I realized that I feel phenomenal. I feel fantastic. And my dad's like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "I don't know. I'm just feeling sick. I had a crazy night at the karate school, and maybe I'm just going through it." So we get home, and then like 10 minutes later, he comes knocking on my door. He's like, "Yeah, so how you feeling?" I was like, "Yeah, I feel great." He's like, "Yeah, you drank my freaking cough syrup. I actually needed that, And I've never, to this day, having 5 years, I've never been able to realize how people can just take certain things as prescribed, drink every so often, and be fine. And that goes to tell you that I'm still highly an alcoholic addict that needs to stay in recovery. So I'm not really going to talk about so much of my childhood and how everything kind of got started, but what really triggered my addiction was in 2007. I mentioned I had an older brother, and 2007, the day after Christmas, he died in a car accident. And I was 16 years old, and he was 19. And he was in Angleton, and he was with a buddy, and the guy driving lost control of the car. They went straight into a ravine. My brother went face first through the windshield. Witnesses say his face skidded on the concrete about 10 yards. And a couple hours later, not a couple hours later, but I get a phone call from my mother telling me what happened. And I'm literally about to get fucked up. I'm literally about to do drugs. And this is where I was at. I literally told my mom. My mom's like, "Well, he's being life flighted, so we kind of all need to be together." I was like, do I have to? Yeah. Like, what a fucking, your brother's dead, dude. Like, go see him. And I remember seeing him, and his head was, I don't know, 5 times the size it shouldn't be. And my dad's like, say a couple words. And I'm like, I'm saying things that I really don't believe. I'm like, this is not the plan. God has something better for you. And I'm trying to make myself feel better. And what's interesting about that night is I had this massive, massive migraine. It literally felt like my head was splitting in half. And I think at that moment is when I realized that's when my brother died. That's when he finally passed. I get home, and my parents are like, "Oh, Nick, I think we should all be together." So I was like, okay. So I got my pillow, went upstairs, got my pillow, my blanket, and I went and slept on the floor in my parents' room. Prior to going downstairs, I get a phone call. To this day, I can't explain it. I get a phone call from my brother Matthew, who just died. And I literally, before I answer, I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, what's happening? And I answer it, and all I heard was breathing. That's all I heard. And I'm literally saying his name right. I probably said about 50 times. I was on the phone for maybe a couple minutes. And I can't explain it, because when certain things like that happen to someone, their belongings are in a bag in a shelf, and that's where they stay. No one's on his phone calling me and playing a game with me. So that was a very, very interesting experience in my life. After that, it was a ball game. I decided that, I don't know how to change. I don't know how to feel anymore. Martial arts helped me out a lot. I got my 3rd degree black belt. I did martial arts tournaments in several countries. It's phenomenal. I loved it. There was something about competing against someone else, and that was the beauty of it. And all that kind of went away. It all went away. Slowly went away. And I started drinking, and I started every time I get home from school, I would drink and drink. I think by the time before I graduated high school, I experienced the shakes. I experienced all those tremors that people talked about.
Oh, so you're drinking a lot.
Yeah. No, I was gone.
Yeah,
I was out of there. And I knew a whole bunch of people in high school, and I knew where to get certain things, and I started taking pills, and I had already kind of experienced Xanax and hydrocodone pills in 8th grade, 9th grade. Let me go back a little bit. So I have this scar on my arm. It's a pretty cool scar, but the story is kind of embarrassing. So what happened was I was skating, rollerblading in a rink. I lost my balance, did a Hulk Hogan smash on the floor, my elbow turned all the way around, and the rest of it shattered.
Oh.
Right now I got 15 screws, 2 plates of wire, and a pin still on my arm today. So painkillers were on point with me. And I remember taking those painkillers, and I remember back a couple years ago when I drank my dad's cough syrup, I was like, is that what this shit is? This is what makes you feel really good. And so let's go a little bit forward, and now I'm drinking, now I'm taking pills, I'm totally not fine. And I remember, I don't know how recently it was, but my dad, he'd always come up to me and say, Nick, are you okay? Talking about, the loss of my brother. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Anybody will tell you, or people watching this, you two right now would be like, no, dude, you're not fine. You just lost your brother. I didn't know how to talk about it, and I didn't want to talk about it. I just wanted to change the way I felt. So what I would do sometimes is I'd go upstairs and I start talking. I would start talking to myself. I had no one else to talk to. I mean, yeah, I had friends, but when I'm by myself, that's when some shit really would go down. And I always felt like I needed to say things, but I didn't know how to tell actual human beings. So it was very interesting. So I graduated high school. I did all that, and I believe after high school is when I was like, you know what? I'll go to college for about 6 months. Failed both classes. And I was like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm fucking done. So I started abusing more drugs. At this time, I actually have a job, and all I'm doing with these jobs that I would accumulate throughout my entire time was all I was doing was paying for my drug habit.
Yeah.
That's all I was doing. And I remember being those people, like, once you get your paycheck, the next day, like, what happened to all my money? And it's like, I literally would buy so much drugs and be broke by the time I get my next paycheck. So, I would go from job to job, job to job, and I was always that guy at a bar, and I was always hanging out with certain friends, and we would always just get lit up. That's all we would do. People talk about, oh, I got so drunk, I want to get so drunk, or like some people say, like, I want to get so high. Like, no, I just want to numb my entire body. And I started experiencing a lot of stuff that goes up your nose. And I felt like that was a whole different ballgame as well. I started snorting coke. I hated the way it made me feel because all I was doing was taking line after line after line after line. And I couldn't really... So I kind of figured it out. If I drank first, smoked some pot, then did some cocaine, I'm bougie. I'm good to go.
Cocktail.
Yeah, I'm good to go. But if I started my night off with just doing a whole bunch of lines of coke, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go upstairs and isolate for the next 3 days. I don't want to talk to anybody. And 2013 is when I was graced and blessed with a beautiful little girl. Her name is Emma Rose Bloom. She is now 7. And I remember when she was first born, at this time, my drug addiction had just taken off. And I felt like if I was sober, I was miserable. So I got this job going to North Dakota building scaffolds. I was like, cool, I'll do it. The money was like, sure.
Yeah.
Never done this before, I'll do it. And a part of it was like, too, I was like, oh, I need to leave. I need to leave this location to get away from my addiction. So let's go to Tioga, fucking North Dakota, right?
What could happen there, right? Yeah.
Oh my God. It's 8 minutes away from the Canadian border, and I went at the worst time to go. It was like the middle, let's see, so I already had Emma for about maybe 4 months so far. And I got the job, and I remember going up to North Dakota, and before I got to North Dakota, remember I'm trying to leave because I have an addiction problem, and I feel like the location that I'm at is my problem. I just need to leave. So right away, I get to the bar, Busch Continental. Have like maybe 7 beers, so there's that. Obviously, I'm not trying to get away from anything. I just want to change the way I felt. So I get to North Dakota. They were very strict on bringing alcohol and drugs on the location because this is a oil company and it is now government property. So they don't play around with stuff like that. A week went by. I was fine. All of a sudden, I had the most expensive, worst cocaine I've ever had in my life. And so at this time, I love putting stuff up my nose. At this time, I enjoy the rush I get when I put anything up my nose. And I was probably still in North Dakota for maybe about a month or two. I made some good money, but prior to all this, I knew somebody. And I hung out with this guy a lot. I'm not going to say his name because it's irrelevant. But he was a guy you didn't get to see when drugs came around. He was a guy supplying other people to distribute his drugs. So we all know who this is. We all know what kind of guy this is. But me being me, I got to go up to his room and hang out with him for hours and kick the shit around. And I remember telling him when I'm in North Dakota, I'm like, hey, we have a serious opportunity here. Like, we can kill it up here. I don't know if you know this, but there's stuff called synthetic marijuana. Yeah. You ever had that?
Yeah, that pretty much ruined my life almost.
Yeah, definitely. So I had a big, long period with synthetic, and I never got high. I just got stuck. Like, I felt dumb. I couldn't think. I had this stuff one time, and for 5 minutes, I was like, who the fuck am I? Who's my mom? Do I have a family? It was like that book you read when you were a kid. Are you my mommy? And I'm like, I didn't know what was going on. And the reason why I was doing that, because through this whole time, I got in trouble with the law several times. I was probably arrested. The first time I was arrested was in 9th grade. I brought a switchblade to school. I didn't know it was in my backpack.
How'd that work out?
Well, I went to jail.
Yeah.
I went to JJ for the next 4 months, and that was a whole different thing because now I'm not in high school anymore. Now I'm actually at JJ, and I was always that guy. Whenever it came down to being holding tanks or whatever, it's like I don't go in there just trying to start shit. I just go in there and hang out and chill.
Yeah.
I don't try to put my head up. I just be who I am. And I never had any confrontations. Never. And I notice when people come into the holding tanks, they have a fucking bug stuck up their ass, and they want to be king ding-a-ling, and then they get their... I'm like, dude, that's why there's so much chaos.
That's so funny. We just had to talk about this the other day. I have a family member that's having to do some time, and I'm like, if he would just go in there and just mind his business, like, he's going to be fine.
Right.
Like, it's okay to just mind your business.
People go in there thinking that I have to act a certain way.
Yeah.
Remember, my buddy, he went to jail, and whenever he got out, he's like, man, I took my shirt off and did like 50 pull-ups. I was like, okay, you didn't have to do that, but I get why you're trying to establish dominance. I get it. Cool. So, so when it came down to being in North Dakota, I've missed a lot of the story, though. I told the guy I was getting drugs from, and I was like, look, we can bring up pure MDMA. I don't know about cocaine, because if you get moisty, don't want to worry about that. And bring up idle. So the synthetic up in North Dakota went for $100 a gram. You'd be an idiot not to invest on that, you know?
That's insane.
Here in Houston, it's $11 or $10 for 11 grams.
Yeah.
People were fiending up there. So I came back and I discovered something new. I had a whole bunch of money. I met this girl at an apartment. Before I did all that, I landed in Houston. I met up with my plug, and I got, I don't know, about $3,000 worth of drugs. And I was at a point where, like, all I want to do is get fucked up. Keep in mind, I have a little girl who needs a father, but where I was at in life, I wasn't ready. I didn't know how to be a father. I wasn't ready to grow up. So I called Emma's mother, and I was like, look, I'm not coming back. I'm hanging out with this girl now. Bye. And every now and then I get these clips of my daughter walking and smiling and wasn't there for her first steps and all that. And, you know, so it's interesting. I found a drug called crystal meth. And I tried this before. My dad, a while back, I told him that, hey, you know, Dad, I have a fucking major cocaine problem. He didn't really phase it. He wasn't like, oh, how dare you? Because he has done it. And it's interesting about him, my father, when he was a little bit younger than me at the time, he was in a band, and his buddies were in a band. Well, one night, their buddies that had the band, their concert went on. After the concert, they're all in the back. And they have ounces and ounces of cocaine. They get a knock on the door. Who do you think that was?
It was the cops?
No,
Okay.
It was Robin Williams. My dad did cocaine with Robin Williams. And this was back when Robin Williams was doing what? Mick and Morty? Back when he was fucking out of there.
Wow,
already.
that was a lot. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then I told him, like I said, I told him we're in the kitchen. I just had to confess. For some reason, I had to tell him what's going on. Let him know I had to check in with my drug addiction. And then I was like, yeah, I also tried meth. I smoked meth. He turned around. He's like, don't you ever fucking touch that drug. And I was like, but I can do cocaine. That's fine. So I had tried meth. I smoked it up for a few days, whatever. And then as time went on, here I am in that situation where I'm trying methamphetamine again, and the girl I'm with, she likes to bang dope, and I think that's cool. I wasn't like, hey, that's disgusting, get the fuck out of my house. I was a drug addict. I understood. Like, this is how you get your drugs? Then that's how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge you. But I was always like, I'm not going to do that.
Like,
I'm not going to
if that's what you
fucking
wanna
do
that's
that. You can do it.
but
I'm not going to do it.
Do a different way.
And I remember snorting meth, and I felt the rush, and people were like, oh, it hurts. And I'm like, that's the best part. And immediately it went from meth was my glorified drug. Cocaine was now pushed to the side. Fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
I'm done. And the next day, keep in mind, I also had I enjoyed pure MDMA. So I would get these nice purple, blue rocks, and we'd crush them up and snort them. And the girl I was with at the time, I was like, you know what? This is like the next day of saying I wasn't going to put a needle in my arm. And I was like, hey, you want to shoot me up? So the first thing I ever shot up in my life was pure MDMA. And the amazing feeling I got was exactly what I feel like people always try to get back. And I knew I was in trouble. But I didn't care, so I was a drug addict, and I just want to change the way I felt. But as time went on, I noticed that methamphetamine was taking me down. And it was taking me down in the most horrific way I didn't even know was possible. I was losing my mind, paranoid as shit. I hated smoking it because I thought when you smoke it, you're wasting it. The only way to do it is to snort it or bang that shit. And the only time I would shoot up is with people. I would never do it by myself because I'm ADD, I'm a major fucking drug addict, and I don't know doses of liquidized meth. I don't know that. I just know how to cram it up my nose. So yeah, I started hanging out with people I never thought I'd hang out before. It's crazy. I got to a point that I was hanging out with people that didn't give a shit about your life. You fuck them over, they're gonna fucking kill you. And this is kind of interesting because when I was a kid, I grew up watching all kinds of movies. I never had a limit on what I could watch. So one of the movies I watched when I was a young kid was Goodfellas. And Henry Hill, Ray Liotta played Henry Hill. And one of the opening scenes, he's like, as far back as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a gangster. And I was like, damn, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be a gangster. Because here he is with all these badass suits from Banana Republic or whatever. He's got thousands of dollars in his hands. But I'm hanging out with these gangsters with tattoos on their face and they can't stop fucking moving. So I thought that was very interesting because when I was a kid, I for career day, there wasn't like, it was like, oh, there's a doctor. You want to be a doctor, go be a doctor. There's, you want to be a firefighter, go be a firefighter. I was looking for like, okay, where's the mafia line? Where's the 007 line? I want those. Yeah, that's what I want.
I was going to live in New York and be a writer and smoke lots of pot.
Yeah.
That was my whole thing that I was going to do.
You're just going to move to New York and change it. Yeah.
Just be a writer and smoke a lot of weed. That's what I wanted to do.
Speaking of New York, my entire family is from New York. I'm the only one from Houston, Texas. They're all from upstate Kingston, New York. My brother, he was from Fall River, Massachusetts. So
you might have a gangster then somewhere in the family.
Probably.
Right?
Probably. Irish, Welsh, German immigrants is where my bloodline comes from. And I just want to say this, just to clarify this. When people say, oh, I'm German, oh, I'm Irish, I'm like, no, you're fucking not. Because a Scottish man at a bar, I was playing darts when I was like 21. I think I was young. And this guy was great friends with my dad, and I learned how to play darts. If you learn how to play darts, you should try it. So this guy from Scotland, he's from Scotland. And I remember saying, hey, you're from Scotland, huh? He's like, oh, Scotland? I was like, I'm Irish. You know what he said to me? He's like, no, you're not. You're an American. And that's when I realized, like, holy shit, I may have bloodline from different countries, but I'm an American. I used to say, oh, I'm Irish, German, English. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, you're American. Stop wasting your time. So, as time went on, there were times in my life that I could hold a job down with any drug I was doing. Even with Xanax. Yeah, I probably wasn't the best employee. But when it came down to meth, I didn't go back to North Dakota. I didn't go back to where they wanted me to go afterwards. I started doing a whole bunch of fucking nothing with so much energy. And I think one of the things that I enjoyed the most was probably, obviously the feeling that it gave me, it was tremendous. It made me feel like a superhero. Laser focus. And next thing you know, I'm up for 15 days straight. 15 days straight is when it was. And people always talk about ghost people or shadow people. I'm like, dude, that's day 4, dude.
Yeah.
You don't fucking know shit until you get up to the couple week mark. That's when you start talking to Satan and fucking the demon Judas who fucked over Jesus Christ, and you're talking to Cain, you're talking to serpents. I swear to God, this is what I was going through.
I have this picture where I was highly convinced that there were people in the parking garage at Windstar Casino, like, staring at me because I had been up for so long. And I'm, like, trying to take a picture to, like, prove, like, there's... Yeah, people don't understand. Like...
But they were there, though.
They were there.
They were
there. Like, making me feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, yeah, the things you see. Like, I honestly thought one day when I pulled up to one of my jobs I was at, it was like the first time I smoked meth at that time. And me and my buddy Shelby was sitting in the car. We got there so early because we're geeked out of our mind. Yeah. We're not going to go home. We're just going to go back to work. And we thought our supervisor way across at the warehouse was doing this. I'm like, hey, I think Jake's here, dude. Let's go over and talk to him. There's nobody fucking there. But Shelby saw it too. Mm-hmm. So as time went on, I knew I had a problem. the girl I was with, whatever, I learned a whole bunch of things about the meth game, and there's no relationships in the meth game. There's no feelings in the meth game. The moment you show your feelings is the moment you're done. So I think it was the 15-day mark, and I have already experienced meth for quite some time now. So yeah, definitely I was a stimulator. I love stimulants. I loved it. And then, I just kind of lost everything. I lost, like, my ability to move. I had to call someone. The ambulance came. So I was in the hospital for a long time. And I tell you right now, when you are geeked and tweaked out of your mind and you are in a hospital, you think you're about to go through experiments from Nazis. And everything that went on in my head was just killing me. So there's that. So the next day I went into rehab, and it was the day I turned, I believe, 23. And I went in there for meth. Went in there to get rid of meth. I had a problem with crystal meth. Of course, other things too. And I remember checking into the park. I believe it was June 27th, 2014 is when it was. That was my first sobriety. I thought it was so cool. And so before I get checked in, my dad's like, let's go to Subway. Let's go eat something. And before I get there, before I basically turn around, my dad's like, you can't drink. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? At that moment, I knew I wasn't ready. So,
because you thought you just needed to stop the meth, right?
That's what I needed.
That's it.
That was my problem.
Yeah.
That was when you really look at it, my methamphetamine use was the same. It was killing me the same way kryptonite would kill Superman. Yeah. It brought me to my knees every time. I didn't know how to get help, and so I got into rehab, and I was sober for about 7.5 months. Sober, not working a program, not doing any of that because I don't want to do any of that. And the first time I got into a meeting, they talked about God. I'm like, dude, I'm fucking done. I don't want to fucking talk about this shit. I just got done talking to Satan. Like, I feel so bad talking about God, But as time went on, like, my mother and grandmother are Irish Catholic. And when I was doing martial arts, my karate instructor was very strict on being a man of God. He was a man that was kind of like a fire and brimstone kind of dude. But he was always like a second father to me. So as I grew up, I was being pushed, God. And you know what? I feel like when people are told this is God, you need to believe it, people are not going to believe that. And that is how a lot of these people in this world believe in God, because they are told at a young age there is a God. Yeah. Don't ask questions, just believe. Yep. Well, how do you believe in something you don't really know what's there? So there's that. And I remember being the guy at the park like, oh, dude, that person's going to use again. That person's going to go back out. That guy's a fucking loser. And here I am drinking again. And I got a really good job at the time. I had 7.5 months when I decided to drink. But a few months prior to that, I was working for a good job. I was making really good money. I was back with the mother of my child. I was with Emma, my daughter, again. So all I was doing was making money. I had no time to go buy anything because I'm working 12, 14 hours a day. I had a really good job, and I fucked it up. And I felt so bad the day I had a drink because it was one of those moments that in the book it tells you, go try some controlled drinking. Yeah, and then it says, do it. I fucking did it, and I didn't control shit. So I was at my parents' house, and I was off for like maybe a couple of days. I'm like, I'll just have one. I'll have one glass of Wild Turkey. And I literally downed the entire glass, chugged it, went back upstairs, and I'm like, I'll just have one more. This won't hurt. One more's fine. This bottle was full. By the end of the day, it was gone. Next thing you know, I had 3 bottles of wine. Those are gone, and a case of beer, and I was fucking out of there. And then as time went on, I started hanging out with people again, and this time around, it's a different crowd of people. I noticed that as my drug career took off, it was going in a path. I was scared of shit. Like, I was scared to go down this path. Yeah. Some people have the path of constantly going to jail. My path was constantly being around people that any minute would fucking kill you. And here I am, this white guy from fucking Kingwood, Texas. Like, and here I am, and I just enjoyed it. Like, I loved being around everybody. And I got to a point that, and I think it was, I know it was the day before. It was, you know what it was? It was March 22nd, 2015. That was the day I had 30 guns pointed at me by nice, shiny guns. Most of them are all Hispanic. Great guys, by the way. I just want to clear that out because the story gets better. So I was being fed all this pure MDMA. I was like a goat being fed grass, and I was constantly taking it. I didn't know they were like, okay, we're going to get him at the end. He's going to pay for what we're giving him. I was fucked up, y'all. I was having fun with these guys. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning, like, all right, you owe us about $1,000, $1,200. Prior to this event, my wallet's gone. So now you have a white guy hanging out with these people saying, I don't have my wallet, bro. What do you think they're going to do?
Yeah.
And I literally had money. I literally lost my wallet. And there's this guy, he's like, well, we're going to figure out what we're going to do with you. So I still have 3 guns pointed at my face. And one of the guys did not want to do it. He could see that I was being sincere. Like, I could feel this connection with this guy as he was one of the guys pointing at me. And I could see in his eyes, he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it. But this other guy over here was like, no, fucking kill this motherfucker. Fuck him up right now. Put his fucking blood on the back of the wall. I was like, holy shit, this is it. You know, because these people aren't going to be kind and give my body to the hospital, my body to my parents. They're going to throw me in the ditch, bury me. My daughter's never going to know what happened. That was going through my head, and I was like, this is it. So I was able to persuade them, and 12 hours, they let me go. They let me go, which great. But I'm at this time I was trying to be a man of my word. And I went to the bar, I went to hang out with my dad, and we had a couple drinks. But he did not know this is probably the last time he was going to see his son, because I didn't know what was going to happen. Part of me was like, I'm going to pay them, they're going to kill me. So I come back with about $2,500. I paid them back with interest, and then I bought the most purest cocaine I've ever had in my life. And here we are doing cocaine with the people who are just about to kill me. And everything's fine. Everything's great. Immediately, the guy was like, dude, Nick, if you ever need anything in your life, you ever go through anything, you let us know. We'll take care of you. I'm like, what the fuck? You're fucked up right now. Like, you're about to kill me 12 hours ago. Now you want to protect me? So it was great being able to get away from the negative, and now I'm like really good with these people. The next day I go to rehab. And I was sober for about 60 days. I didn't know what it was to be sober. I didn't know you had to really get dissected into the book. You had to really dissect who you are as an addict. And when you're not ready, you have no interest of even looking at those things. Yeah. So I decided that the day I had 60 days, I think it was, I was on my way to the park. It was a Friday. And then this big alumni meeting. I'm all the way. This is what I lived in Kingwood, so I'm about 45 minutes away from the park. Keep in mind, traffic is fucked up all the way to Halliburton.
Yeah, because that's like pre-COVID when we actually had like really terrible traffic.
Oh yeah, for sure. People are like, oh my God, I'm so proud to be in traffic. And I'm like, no, you're not. Keep staying in traffic, and then we'll find out how spiritual you really are. Because there are some times I'm like, we need to move. Like, God's not doing this. I got to do something. Because he's not helping us move. We got to figure this out. And I remember just getting so upset about traffic. I remember being fucked up. Traffic existed, but I didn't care because I was fucking out of there. You know? So I get to a point that I'm all the way at Halliburton, and I'm like, I'm going to call my sponsor. And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm going to turn around, I'm going to call this guy Chef, and I'm going to get some meth. Just like that. I was on my way for recovery, And immediately the guy on my left is like, nah, bro, you know what you want to do. Stop fucking around. Go get what you want. Because I was kind of still chatting with people I was doing drugs with.
Yeah.
So I didn't really leave them alone. So then at this time, I was only out for about 30 days after this, maybe a little bit longer. Well, about May, maybe a couple months. Back in the meth game, I got to a point that I was having methamphetamine delivered to my house for free. It's actually quite nice. There's a lot of things that prior to my life that I was, able to do to get that kind of grace from drug dealers. And then, I remember that I was gone and I was up for 21 days. And in those 21 days, think about this. When you're up for so long, at this time I'm back at my home. I'm not running with anybody anymore. I'm back at my house. 21 days. It's literally Monday through Friday, my parents are going to work. Saturday and Sunday, they're off, taking their days off. Repeat that cycle 2 more times. While I'm upstairs, going ballistically psychotic. So yeah, if I was honest with my psychiatrist when I was younger, I would have had one of those loony bin stories. That's just literally how it was. And finally, I think it was, what happened was I was running low. And my thing, I was very stupid when it came down to this because I feel like the more I'm running low, the more I have to do, which made no sense. So then my mom was like, you want to go back to the park? And I guess I said yes. And the reason why I say I guess I said yes is because the next day my mom's like, so I got you a spot at this time on Friday at the park. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? She's like, this is what you wanted. And I was like, well, wait a minute. If I said that, then I guess I said that, because mom was like a lot of me. So I went back to the park. I was in there for a couple of days. My counselor comes up to me. Julie Traylor, who was my counselor, she was phenomenal. And she came up to me like 2-3 days later. She's like, yeah, Ed is kicking you out, bro. She just said bro. But I had already been to the park 2 other times. And of course your insurance knows you better than people know you,
Yeah, your insurance decides when
right. Thanks for
thanks
for being my insurance, thanks for helping me out, but fuck off. And then I was like, look, Julie, this is when I realized I wanted to be sober. I looked at her straight in the eye and I was like, whether I leave today or tomorrow, whatever happens, I'm going to go back out and I'm going to use meth again. And I told her straight to her face, like, don't let me leave. Do whatever you can. And the next day, I think maybe a couple hours later, I get a call in. I was talking to Julie. She's like, yeah, your grandmother put up several $1,000s for you to stay. So instead of leaving on my 3rd day, I actually got 30 days at the park. And when I made those words to Julie, I knew right then and there, when I was honest about, if I go back out these doors into the world, I'm going to use again. So, now I would tell you that my sobriety journey with 5 years has not been a perfect journey. There was a time, because I had 1 year, great. That's fantastic. Great. Everyone's so spiritual when they got 1 year. And 2 years, okay, that's great. But as 2 years was hitting, I was going into an old way of thinking. I decided to steal about $26,000 from my grandmother. Cash. I literally looked up on YouTube, how do you break into an electronic safe? Sober. So when they talk about changing, like, it's not the drugs and alcohol. And it's interesting because, like, after I made that decision to steal, part of me was like, oh, I'm just going to be a sober criminal. This is just going to be great. I talked to some people who had some time, like, look, Nick, like, it is what it is. They didn't judge me. They didn't hate me. They understood, because it's not about the drugs and alcohol. It's about you. How you work your life, like how you think is what we need to change. And that's what the steps do for me. is they help me change my life, help me change my thinking. Because without the steps, without recovery, really, I'm going to go insane. I'm going to go insane. Because if I'm not doing drugs and I'm not treating my recovery, then I'm going to be dry drunk, and I'm going to run my own show again. I'm going to live in self-will, and my life's going to be a riot. And it was for about 18 months. There was a point, 2018, 19, I think it was. It was 4 days after Valentine's Day. And I hadn't been in the rooms. I'm still sober, but I'm miserable. Okay? Miserable. I was in a relationship. When it was good, it was great. It was great. But I made her my higher power. I made her my higher power. So there's strike one. I'm using someone else to change the way I feel. As time went on, I decided to go get angry, and I decided to slice my arm open with a box cutter. Now, keep in mind, for me, I didn't know how sharp those fucking things were. So when I did it, I stabbed myself, and I went down. And I say this because, not to really scare anybody who's in recovery, but it's how my recovery was. It's I got to a point that if I wasn't using or drinking, I'm not engaged in the program, I'm just going to kill myself. And thank God I'm still here. But that's what happens when I don't treat my alcoholism, because step 2 is very clear about your insanity. And I remember a couple of times going to the rehab and getting sober. You have to first admit that you are insane. And here I am being a person my whole life doing drugs, and I didn't realize that I'm doing these drugs to change the way I felt. I did it because I liked the way it made me feel. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I got sober, you're changing the way you feel, huh, Nick? No, I'm getting fucked. I don't really know what you're saying, but yeah, I like to get fucked up. And I remember having an argument with one of the counselors there. She's like, it's a disease, it's a disease. And I'm like, no, it's not. I just fucking didn't care.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get fucked up. What are you saying it's a disease for? And my thing is, okay, it could be disease or it couldn't be. I'm still I know it's something I can't do anymore.
Yeah.
I've lost the will to drink and do drugs like a normal human being, which kind of sucked. But I don't live my life thinking about alcohol, thinking about meth, thinking about Xanax. I don't think about any of that. However, sometimes thoughts do occur. Like the other day, I was watching TV, and there's new whiskey called Uncle Nesty or Nestle or something, 100% proof, and I'm like, damn, I can just imagine the burn, having a couple ice cubes in the glass, perfect.
No, I said it today. I said it today, and the one day I was like, I quit drinking, and now there's all these flavored drinks.
Oh my God,
right?
it's
like the
flavored water with alcohol.
And all this stuff, and the seltzers, and I'm like, I'm never eating that shit when I quit drinking. What is this?
What's interesting is when I see certain people carrying. First of all, when I see a guy carrying a case of Truly or White Claw, I'm like, dude, whatever respect I had for you. I mean, you're a stranger. I don't know you, but you lost some points, man. So, my life today is completely different. Like I said, I still get the thoughts of, oh, what if this, what if that, I realize when several restaurants, every time I see a couple or someone or individual sitting at a table and they leave their drink basically untouched, and they leave, and I'm still looking at that what the fuck is wrong with y'all?
Yeah.
So even with 5 years, I'm like, I still don't get that.
Yeah.
So I got back and called in my sponsor again. After I kind of cut myself and did all that, I was still kind of dry for a little bit, but, before I picked up 5 years and before COVID, I was back engaged. I was back in the program. And people who know me from the time I first got sober to now, they'll tell you that, yeah, Nick will come and go. Nick will get his sobriety in, he'll get his recovery in, he'll be in the fellowship, and then he'll fucking ghost out. I'll be honest, I feel like that's who I am and who I was in recovery. Like, I would come in and out. And then now I feel like I don't want to be living my life trying to control my life. I try to leave everything up to God. The cool thing is, like, back in my addiction, when my daughter was first born, I loved her, but I never felt that I'm a father. Oh, yay. I cried. I did. But at first I was like, I want to go get fucking high. That's literally all it was. I wanted to get high. And anyways, so her mother just pushed out Emma. Keep in mind, Emma was 8.5 pounds. My daughter's big. She's big. And it was a trick. It was a trick, and I fucking failed. It was Emma's mother, her name is Hannah, and her aunt. So like, Nick, do you want to go home and get some rest? You look tired. Me now, I'm like, they fucking got me. She just pushed a baby out of...
Yeah, you should have been like, no, I'm fine.
No, see, I fucked up.
I'll stay here.
But I go home and I'm smoking synthetic. So, but I say all that because at that time, as time went on, I didn't care about my daughter when I was originally, when she first came in. After meth came into my life, that was more important to me. I'd rather do methamphetamine than have anything to do with her. This is the honest truth. I did not care. Of course, I get these videos of her walking and laughing. I'm like, oh God, like I would forget I had a daughter. It got that bad.
It's just because when you're in that, like, all you care about is the drug.
Yes.
Like, that's all you care about.
Like, your own flesh and blood needs you. And it's like, here I am.
You are incapable of caring about anything else because you care so much about the drugs.
Right.
Like, you just can't. That's the only thing that you can think about. That's all you want to do.
The insanity.
Yeah, that's... Screw everybody else.
So, I see my daughter a lot more now. I get to spend a lot more time with her. So when I think it was... So I've had sponsees in the past, okay? I've had sponsees. We get to a couple steps and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And then as I got 2 years to 3 years, I didn't get a chip for 3 years or 4 years. So I wasn't around, So I wasn't taking anybody through the steps. I wasn't calling my sponsor, working my steps. And it wasn't until, I believe, February, a big group of us went to Tiki Paw. We went to Slumber Falls, New Braunfels, and we gave a shout out to Carson. I see Carson as a little brother to me. He was the first guy I ever took the steps through. And whenever we did it, we finished them at the cabin.
That's cool.
In nature.
That's cool.
And we did it all, and at the end, I realized I was missing something. For all these years, I realized I missed the point. This is what it's about. It's about taking someone else through the steps and helping them live their life. And I had a spiritual awakening. I had one of those things I had when I first did the steps. But this time it was different because I finally got to feel what it's like to help someone through their journey. And it was a remarkable feeling. And I would say God has been really good. Of course, sometimes when I feel like when I get irritated, of course I want to blame God for something. It's like, come on, dude, like just chill out. You're fucking angry about nothing. Just chill. And my point about when I said people, when they're born and raised, they're being told God is real. God, 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 God. And it wasn't until I got sober and actually had some spiritual awakenings, especially when I had that spiritual experience with Carson. Those moments is when I believe there's a God. I actually have faith now. I actually have belief that there is a God. Being a kid, that's why I was so defiant. I didn't hate God. I didn't know Him. And how can I hate someone I don't even fucking know?
But I think a lot of people come into their program with resentments already against God, right? Because they either had something like it was forced down them, right? Or their parents were like, "You're just not praying hard enough," right? Or they believe in God, but they're like, why are you letting this happen to me?
Right.
Right? And it gets into this, like, fuck you type situation.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
you ever do those 911 prayers? Like, God, get me out of this.
dude,
I swear I won't do it again.
For a long time, I got pulled over one time with an open container, and I was like, please.
Yeah.
And they let me go.
Yeah.
They let me go. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with y'all. Y'all probably should take me to jail that day. But
I would say there were so many times I got lucky.
yeah.
Lucky.
It was like, but it was different this last time I got locked up because I wasn't doing the whole just don't send me back to prison.
Yeah.
Right? I was just like, you know what? Maybe I need to be sat down for a little bit.
Right.
Because I've been in my addiction for 20 years and clearly cannot get it together.
Yeah.
And I actually prayed every day. I was like, just change everything about me.
Right.
That's what I prayed for God just to change everything about me. And, you know, I basically got a slap on the wrist for some bullshit.
Some bullshit.
Some bullshit I'd been doing. So, yeah, foxhole prayers. Those are...
Yeah. You know, I watched this show recently, and it's called Father of Lights. It's a documentary. It's about certain people who help people find God. It's very hard to explain, but if y'all watch it, it'll intensify your belief in God.
And where can they find that out? Was it on Netflix?
It's on, no. You could go on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, you know, if you have Amazon, type it in, Father of Lights, click on it. Here's the thing, it may cost you money, like a couple dollars or whatnot, but I also have this app called Plex, and I can watch it for free. You can figure that one out too if you want to watch it. But it is a powerful documentary. But here's the thing. You watch things like that, it's the same thing as hearing stories about God. Either you're going to believe it or you're not. Because we hear all these stories throughout time about God, but you can take and pick what you want to believe. When you watch a documentary, you can always take and pick. Like, you know what? That's Hollywood. Bullshit. I'm not going to be engaged. But what I felt was, because I've been that kind of person. Like documentaries, it's all Hollywood. You know, they're trying to get you. And when I watch it, none of that went through my head. I was like, wow, I actually believe that this is how God is. And what happened is he brings all these different people, different religions together, and they talk about God. They talk about Jesus Christ. And this is a Christian man with a Muslim talking about Jesus Christ.
Wow.
It was insane. So my faith in God has been stronger and stronger. I don't feel like, I need to leave this world, you know. And if I'm working on myself and I'm doing the next right thing, whatever that may look like, you know, and helping someone through the steps, you know, trying to do more things that doesn't involve Nick, but involve someone else.
Yeah, I see you post up all the time.
Yeah,
I think you've been up there a lot.
Well, a while back, you wouldn't have seen me. And it's interesting because being around the program has helped me grow in life. You know, 29 years old, y'all. I'm getting old.
Whatever, okay? I'm like 36. That's
Get
how
outta
he is
here.
all the time. He's like, I'm so old. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
How old are you?
Real.
28.
28.
You're younger than me, but we're getting up there, man. We're getting up there. You know, this was my first time telling my story through video, a podcast. I may have missed some stuff, maybe out of nerves or excitement, but
We can always do a follow-up if you want to. If
we
you
can
watch
always do
it.
a part two.
Yeah, we can always do a part 2.
More about Nick. Okay, perfect. And before I give it back to you, I will say that a while back, I was driving on the highway and I saw this billboard, and it was about Crown Royal. And keep in mind, I'm not a big Crown Canadian whiskey kind of guy, okay? I'm more of like an Irish Scotch kind of guy. I like Johnny Walker.
Yeah, I can see that.
If I was a balling guy, if I saw a bottle of Macallan, I'll be all over that. But the problem with Macallan, it's very expensive, very bougie. So I'm driving on the highway and I see this billboard and it says Crown Royal Honey, Crown Royal Sour Apple. And I passed by it, I'm like, Crown Royal Honey, that's disgusting. And then I was like, but that sour apple though, that sounds good. Anyways, That's all I got.
Crazy. This was fun. Okay, so any shout outs?
Well, Brian Smith for sure.
Brian Smith.
My mom and dad, Stephanie Bloom, Ray Bloom. There's so many people. Carson, my sponsor, Darren C. He'll tell you straight up that he's a crackhead. And that's how he presents himself. He says, my name's Darren, I'm a crackhead.
See, that would be fun when we do a part 2 on you, have you and your sponsor come on. That would be entertaining. No?
Fuck, all right. That's a whole nother ball game, but we can do that. But it's been an honor talking through this and talking to y'all about my life. And I mentioned before to you and Ashley and to Daniel that I wanted to start a podcast. And being able to do this makes me feel like, it's just, I don't know who's watching this right now. Like, I don't fucking know. There's Daniel over there, like, looking like, But this was a great experience.
It's fun.
If I reached one person, then that's a plus.
And that's really what it's about, right? So I don't have, like, thousands of likes on my Facebook page or whatever. And I'm like, as long as, like, somebody gets help, right? Or maybe doesn't get fucked up today, or if they're in that, like, that hopeless, like, my life sucks, it's never going to get better. Maybe they can see that, like, other people have gone through some shit and, like, we made it. You know what I mean? Like, you can get through your shit.
Right. But I feel like when you do this, it's like, it's up to God now.
Yeah.
Like, whether you reach 1 million people or 50 people, like, you're reaching people's lives right now. And that is a beautiful thing.
It's pretty cool. I like it. So, shout out real quick to Transformations for letting me use the building. Okay, and so a couple weeks ago, I said I was going to start doing this, like, small business thing. The first one was to this cool t-shirt place in Lampasas. Okay, so my second one this week, this is a really cool thing. So it's called Tomahawk Targets. It is, you can find them on Facebook. And the guy that founded this, they're like the target boards, like we throw axes at them.
Like therapy?
Like, how you can do axe throwing?
Yeah. He,
like, custom makes these boards so you can, like, have them in your house or whatever.
Just throw axes around the house? It's fantastic.
So it's this guy, this is a documentary you're going to have to watch. His name is Greg Kelly. He was a football star from Leander High School, and he was wrongly convicted of aggravated sexual assault of a child. Went to prison, actually got out of prison, was exonerated.
Is this the gentleman who was in prison for 16 years? Or is this a different guy?
No, this is a different guy. He only did, it was like 6 years is the whole process of him actually being incarcerated, and like, so he had like a full ride scholarship his senior year of high school to a college, like totally just. So you can actually watch the documentary. It's called Outcry. I think it's on like Amazon and Showtime. So check that out. But he started this cool business. So look him up on Facebook, Tomahawk Targets, and then check us out in like our Facebook page, YouTube, iTunes, Google Podcast, Spotify. Yeah, I think that's going to be it. Yeah. So, have a great week, and yeah.